Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome in. My name is Lydia Holland. I will be your moderator for this evening, and welcome to our presentation, Is Your Student Outgrowing Traditional School? I will go ahead and pass it over to our presenter now so she can get a chance to introduce herself and start the presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Tormala. I am the head of school for Laurel Springs School. It's a fully online school, and we've been around for 35 years. And we're really excited to share with you some information about, the differences between traditional and online school and what might work for your student. Because really, that is the question, right? For all parents, is what's going to be best for my student? And one of the questions we see coming up on a regular basis from the families that we talk to is that struggle of trying to decide if a traditional school environment is still the right choice for their students. And especially if they've never done anything else, that's kind of scary, thinking about what else could be out there and how do you make such a big decision. So hopefully the information we share tonight will give you some places to start, some great questions to ask, some of the things that are good to know about online learning, and I'll share a little bit more about Laurel Springs toward the end. And then, of course, we will have Q&A because we love that. So let's get started by talking about what are some of the challenges that parents speak to us about with traditional learning. And they really fall into four major buckets. We've got the group pacing versus the individual pacing. So in a traditional classroom, like many of us grew up going to school with, you have 20 to 30 to 40 kids in that space who are all working with the teacher at the same time. They're all on the same time schedule for getting through an academic year. They're working through the same units of information. Their assignments are all due at the same time. And for a lot of students, that works just fine. But there are students for whom that individual opportunity for pacing would actually be a better fit. So that's often one of the challenges our families are trying to solve for. The second is time, space, and location limitations. So for a lot of our families, if they have a student who's involved in activities outside of school that they're really passionate about, that can really be a challenge when you're trying to adjust for attending school on a day-to-day basis. And so families may be looking for something with a little bit more flexibility so their students can kind of have it all and not have to choose between those two options. There are also a lot of families out there, especially now, and we've seen a growing number of families in this situation who are really looking for more opportunities for individualized, personalized, or differentiated learning. In other words, they're really looking for that one-to-one attention for their students, either because their students have a challenge they're struggling with, or they are an accelerated learner, or they're just trying to do things at a little bit different pace or in a little bit different methodology than the rest of the students they might be working with. So having more of that individualization may be a challenge that you're trying to solve for. And then also learning environment. There are a lot of students out there, more and more so, who are finding that learning in a traditional classroom with the noise and distractions and the things that are going on with the bell to bell and moving around from classroom to classroom, that may not be working so well for them as a learner. And for some students, having that more quiet or controlled space, either in a home environment or another environment where they have a lot more control about when they learn, how they learn, what they're doing, whether they're sitting on the floor or on a bed or on a chair or outside on their patios, this can be really helpful to them. So these are really the key areas that we hear families talk about when they're asking that question, is traditional learning working for my child? And really it comes down to that key concept. Are you having to fit your child into the school that they're currently in? And is that fit just not working really well? Or are you looking for a school that can fit around your child and your child's needs? And that may be where online learning can be a good option. So how are parents responding to some of these challenges? Well, here's some statistics for you. So just recent studies and recent surveys are showing that there's an increasing rise actually in all kinds of homeschool concepts. Now that may be parents who are choosing to provide all of the curriculum and teaching for their students. It may also include online learning. There's kind of a combination of both of those spaces in that homeschool environment, but we're seeing a huge rise in homeschooling across the United States, actually. We also see a huge rise across the globe in online learners in general. And this survey, the one that's cited here, is actually looking at online learners across all grade levels, including colleges and universities. So that tells you that even in the college and university space, online learning is increasingly a part of the norm for students who are in that space. And that can be a good reason for your student to get a little bit of experience in online learning, even at a younger age. More and more students and parents are choosing into supplemental learning or academic support programs. That could look like taking an extra class through an online program or through some other local area that they're a part of because that school that they're going to doesn't offer it. It can also look like additional electives or languages. More and more families are choosing into that supplemental kind of learning. And then many, many more families are starting to lean into tutoring. And that extra academic support on top of whatever they're doing in their academic program of record. So lots of efforts by parents right now to try to solve for these challenges that they are seeing with a traditional learning environment. Now, I do want to say and be really clear here, there's nothing wrong with a traditional learning environment. I've been in education for 20 years and I've worked in both brick and mortar and online schools. And there are great schools across all that spectrum. So really it's a question of what's going to work best for your child. And what's really great about today, as opposed to 30 years ago, for example, is that you have options. And online school might be an option that you can look at. So what are some of the benefits? Well, flexibility certainly is one of the huge benefits of online school. And that could look like flexibility in the environment you're in. So families who travel a lot might want the stability of having a school that can go with them. It could look like the environment that the student is learning in, whether they feel more comfortable learning in their bedroom or at the kitchen table or perhaps at a local play area. There are lots of options there when you choose an online school. And then pacing, of course, can be a lot more flexible in the online environment depending on the type of online program you choose. Families also find that differentiation and personalization are much more prevalent in the online space because typically most online schools are looking at providing that level of personalization with curriculum and teachers and programs. So you're going to get an accredited curriculum supported by expert teachers. You as a parent don't have to know everything. You can lean on teachers to help you. You're going to have more student choice in the assignments and the courses that they can take. There aren't as many limitations that you might have in a traditional environment. And you're going to get a lot more individual attention from teachers, counselors, and staff because of the way the programs are set up. And then, of course, the third one that a lot of our students lean into is that acceleration opportunity. So students who really want to go faster, they want to be able to move through one content a little bit more quickly than another. There's a lot more opportunity in an online environment to make that happen based on the individual's needs. And that can be helpful with executive functioning, communication, and organization skills. One of the big benefits that we hear our students and parents talking about all the time is that they enhance these skills, they build these skills in ways that they wouldn't otherwise in a traditional environment. And it really serves them well when they move on to college or career because they're already used to building a schedule, following their own deadlines, creating their own calendars. These are things that we as adults do all the time, but we forget sometimes that that's a learned skill. So having the students have that opportunity to build those skills a little bit earlier can be really beneficial. I do want to take a moment and clarify, because this is often a big question we get from parents. Not all online schools are the same. There are different types of modalities for online learning. So it really comes down to how flexible do you want to be? So probably at the top of the flexibility scale is asynchronous learning. That means fully independent, self-paced learning, which is usually delivered through a learning management system. So all of the content that a student might need to learn a course, let's say Algebra 1, would be contained within that course on the learning management system. They're not attending live classes. They're not tied down to any kind of bell schedule or calendar. They're able to move through that content at their own pace. They read, they watch videos, they do interactive assignments, they do practice questions, they may research and write papers, they do science labs. All of these things are led for them through the learning management system. This can be the most flexible because it means the student really can learn from anywhere at any time, and all they need is a computer and access to the internet. And then that's usually supported with one-on-one attention from a teacher or a counselor or both. Now, hybrid learning is another option out there. That's where students may spend some of their time at an in-person facility and some of their time online. And every school that's hybrid looks a little bit different in the way they balance that. It may also include a combination of synchronous, meaning timed work, and asynchronous work, similar to what I just described. So there are hybrid programs that kind of try to do both. And that can be really beneficial to students who do want more of that face-to-face or in-person interaction. And then there's synchronous learning, which, that's what traditional school is in person, is synchronous learning. You're going to a class, you're physically present with people, you're doing the a lesson all at the same time. You can do that in an online space as well, usually through a method like this, a Zoom call or other type of video conferencing system, where you have video classes where you are live learning with a teacher and a group of students. You're following a bell schedule, all of that stuff, but you get the flexibility of maybe being able to learn from somewhere else in the country or from a different part of the neighborhood, and you don't have to be physically present at a school in order to engage. So again, there are options out there for you as families to choose what might work best for your child. And there are great schools in all of these categories. But one of the key things you have to think about is how much flexibility do I need versus how much structure do I want my student to have? So I wanted to give you a couple of case studies, or really 3 different case studies, because it's hard to kind of understand how this thing works and why families would choose into it when you don't have an actual example. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of students that I know. These are real students. And yes, I have their permission to share their stories. But these are real students who chose into online learning for different reasons. So I'm just going to kind of go through each one of them. The first is Everett. Hello, Everett. Meet Everett. Everett is twice exceptional. He is incredibly intelligent, and he also deals with certain learning difference challenges. He tested into high school level for reading and math and all of those different core areas at 10 years old. So he was really accelerated as a young person. That was really hard for him to be in a traditional learning environment where, as a 3rd grader, he was operating at a far higher level than most of his classmates. He loves to learn. It's one of his great passions in life, and he wants to be an engineer. And he got really bored and frustrated, and as kids do, could act out a little bit as a result of not having that individual attention and that ability to learn as fast as he wanted to. So what did online learning do for Everett? Well, he, first of all, enrolled at an online school at age 6. And yes, you can do online learning at K through 5. You really can. We do at Laurel Springs. It's a fantastic program. It does require a lot more support from home. Of course it would, right? Because younger students need more structure, but it's absolutely doable. And for Everett, it was absolutely the best choice. He started taking high school level classes at age 10. He learned multiple languages while he was in online school throughout his experience. He's a competitive swimmer, so he had the time and the energy to also be able to do something with sports outside of school. He pursued AP honors and dual enrollment courses and did all of that in an accelerated pace. So when he graduated, he actually had 30 credits toward his college education. He made some great friends. This is one of his favorite things that he talks about. He was able to engage in many of the activities that were provided, where it was student ambassadors or honor societies or clubs and activities. And he made some of his best friends through those activities in a virtual space. And he graduated at age 15. He graduated last year in the class of 2025, and he entered college. He just completed his first year of college as an aerospace engineer student. So super happy kid, really excited about his future. And it was because of online learning that he was able to stay on track with being that accelerated, excited learner in life. So let's see if it works. I have a little video for you of Everett speaking for himself. And so I'm going to try to share this. If the audio doesn't work, we'll move on and we'll move to the next student I want to share with you.
You may have to click out and then check the option, but
click out.
Oh, stop sharing and then share again.
That is something that's really important, is that I be thrown in. I need to be able to go in and say, okay, I need to be plugged into this community.
Did I stop sharing? I stopped sharing, didn't I?
Yeah, you stopped sharing, but I think it was already working actually. So you didn't even need to do that.
All right, I'll do this again. Here we go. Okay, thanks everybody for your patience. This is what happens in online learning. We're very, very used to it. All right, let's try this again. There we go.
And it's something that's really important, is that I be thrown in. I need to be able to go in and say, okay, I need to be plugged into this community. The only thing I can't prepare myself for college is in college, I can't just hide behind a computer screen all the time. I have to physically go participate with people. So Ignite Academy worked a while, and then again, it was the same thing. I started finishing around 10 or 11. I wasn't getting plugged into the community, and it just, I needed something more. I needed something to push me further. And so that's when I started in Laurel Springs. And I remember I got to Laurel Springs, and I think the first day I was doing school for maybe 8 or 9 hours because just like it really challenged me to think, but that was good because it's like giving your brain a workout. It's like the more you work out your brain, the stronger it gets. So like I just needed to constantly be challenged. And once I was there, then I was able to get plugged into a community. And I've made some of my best friends at Little Springs, like lifelong friends, and met them in person just through, I think, over time. It was okay, this program's not working, this is good, I need something better. So just continuously pushing through is really helpful. It's exposure programs that's right.
So as you saw, Everett did try a couple of different online programs before he ended up choosing Laurel Springs, and he spoke to some of the challenges that we've talked about, the need to learn faster, the need to have social community, and the need to make connections between his learning and his social engagement. So Everett is a great success story. I also want you to meet Peter. He's another one of our students, this time in a performing arts space. So Peter began dancing at 3 years old. Like, he is a stellar dancer, and he is a professional dancer at this point, even at a high school level. He dances and he's a choreographer. He's traveling all of the time, major time commitment. He's constantly engaged in his art and craft. But at the same time, he really wanted to have good academics. He actually loves math and science, and he didn't want to miss out on that because of all the time and energy he was putting toward dance. And he also really wants to play sports and have time for his family. Like, he really did want it all. And that's really hard to have in a traditional environment. When I was working in brick and mortar schools, I would encounter students like Peter all the time. And it was really hard because a lot of the times the conversations we were having with those students were about missing too much school, or you've missed too many assignments, or you're missing tests and you're now going to make up 3 or 4 of them all at the same time because school didn't fit what the student was doing. The student had to fit around what the school schedule was, and it was really hard to change that, no matter how much everybody tried. So for a student like Peter, that traditional environment makes it really difficult to have all of these things and still have time for sleep and all of those elements that you need in your life. So how did online school help Peter in maybe a different way than Everett? Well, he enrolled in online school in 5th grade, so at an earlier time in his life. He can now travel without restriction. So because he chose an asynchronous program, he can take his learning with him wherever he goes. And that means he can be on the road for competitions or performances, working with other artists, and it's not holding him back from that. He sets his own daily and weekly academic schedules around what he's doing, and those schedules can shift based on what he has going on. And he can take time off of school when he needs to in order to engage in a competition or focus on a really intense week of dance. He gets one-to-one support from his teachers and counselors on his schedule, so he can make appointments. He can talk with them one-on-one. When he's struggling with something, he can get the attention he needs. And very important to Peter, he can have it all. So he can really do dancing at a high level while also having all of those other components in his life that help him be a balanced person. So just for fun, I have a little clip of Peter dancing for you. This is something that we have shared out, and he has shared out on his own. As you can see, Peter is an amazing dancer, and we are just super proud of him and proud that he's been able to really engage in this craft that he's so passionate about. So let me introduce you to my third student here, and this is my third and final story of the evening. Francie. Francie is just one of these really, truly amazing people. She is the oldest of 4 sisters, and they and their family live on a ranch, actually, and they are all 4 engaged in the ranching business. Everything from, dealing with cattle and horses, sun up to sundown. They've got a lot of work that they do on their ranch. But on top of that, Francie is also a major rodeo athlete and wanted to do that on a high level and wants to do that on a competitive level in college as well. She was finding that she was missing a lot of school, especially as she moved through middle school. And got more and more engaged in the competitive work of being a rodeo athlete. She was missing school too much. She was having to travel really frequently. She was missing out on time with family. And more importantly, as well, she was missing out on certain academic and social experiences that she wanted to have, but that the rural schools in her area didn't really have access to. And again, that's just the nature sometimes of the educational environment that you happen to live near. So she was looking for a way to, kind of like Peter, have it all. And for high school, she then decided to move into online learning. So here's how it helped her. She was able to engage throughout high school with full participation in ranch life with her family. And when she talks about this, she talks about like raising animals, driving tractors, doing rodeo, the whole bit. She's been able to do all of that and spend time with her family along the way. But she's also been able to take those college prep and AP courses that were not available in her local schools and still be able to do that while she's traveling and working. She participated in activities like National Honor Society, which was something really important to her. She wanted to be a part of that, and her local schools did not have chapters of NHS. She now will be graduating in about 2 weeks, actually, with our class of 2026. And she's going to attend a really excellent college as a Division I women's rodeo athlete. So because of the ability to balance between academics and athletics, she's now going to be able to have a chance to do something she really dreamed of doing. She talks also about the benefits of online learning and helping her to learn independence, responsibility, and time management. These were really important to her, and they've helped her enormously in balancing all of the things in her life that she finds important to her. So here's a little bit about Francie.
Repeat flexibility is being able to put my schoolwork to fit it in around my schedule rather than having to fit my schedule around my schoolwork. It's so helpful to me. I can have a full day of jackpotting, roping, and everything just because I got my work done early in the morning when I was done for the day. Or by a longer day, I can set that aside for later after I get everything done. And I really don't have to give up very much. I can do so much outside of courses, extracurriculars, anything I want.
So there you go. And if you're interested in hearing more about Francie's story, we have a lot more video footage of her on our YouTube channel. She has just some amazing stuff to talk about in her life, and for her family, she's super cool, and we're really excited we could be a part of her journey. So with those 3 examples in mind, some of them may look familiar. They may align somewhat with the challenges that your children are trying to solve for, or it may be that your children are looking for additional challenges that they're trying to solve for. The reality is that in an online space like Laurel Springs, we have students of all different types who live all over the country and all over the world. They all have different elements of their lives that they're trying to resolve around school, and having that flexibility can be a real benefit to them. So as parents, as you are thinking about, hey, is online school perhaps an option? These are some great questions that you should consider. Ask yourself, think a lot about your own situation. These are also questions that you can ask the various online programs that you might be researching, but they will be helpful in helping you choose whether to move into online learning, but also which program to choose if that is ends up being the option for you. So for example, and this is the one I definitely recommend right off the bat, what type of learner is my child? You need to know your child as best as you can as a learner, because online learning is going to look different for them than a traditional environment. And it's going to involve you as a family supporting them in a much more active way. You're going to need to, especially early on as they're transitioning into online learning, or if they're younger students, you're going to need to help them develop their schedules. You'll need to help them decide how to balance the various pieces of their lives. You'll need to help them determine, for example, are they someone who needs to do a little bit of work in each of their classes every day? Or perhaps they want to dive deep and maybe they want to do all of their English work on Mondays for the week and all of their math work on Tuesdays for the week. There are various options there, and it's really up to you and your student to figure out what's going to work best. So before you do anything, know your student, know what's going on in their lives that might make their current situation challenging, and think about and ask questions about how online learning could potentially help solve for those challenges. That will lead you to the next question, which is what type of online learning? If I'm going to lean that direction, what's going to work best for my student? So once I know what they need, do I need an asynchronous, fully flexible model? Do I need more of a hybrid model? Do I need more of a synchronous, like series scheduled day with live learning? What's going to work best for my student? And then start looking for programs that meet those needs. You want to ask yourself how much structure and support you can provide at home. Now, for older students, you may not need to have a person there all the time, but you're going to need to be checking in with them. You'll need to help have check-in points. You'll need to be watching and being visible with their learning. You'll need to be making sure that they're staying on pace, because that's a partnership between you and the online school. The teacher isn't right there to tap them on the shoulder in the classroom and say, hey, you didn't turn in your homework today. What's going on? So that's something where you have to be able to have some level of support dedicated at home. And obviously, the younger the student, the more support you're going to want to be able to provide. You're going to want to check into the school. Is it accredited? Is it approved by the appropriate agencies? If your student is a college-bound athlete, you're going to want to make sure the school is approved by the NCAA so that they are going to keep their eligibility. What kind of reputation does the school have with colleges and universities? If your student is on a college-bound track, is this school going to help them get there? So these are questions you should absolutely ask. What are the outcomes that this school can share? How long has it been in practice? What kinds of outcomes or statistics do they have about student achievement and student success? Take a look at that. Ask yourself if your student fits some of those same types of stories, and would it work well for them as well? Does the school have qualified teachers and counselors? What kinds of support do they provide? Is it active programming? Is it one-to-one support? What does that look like? And again, always tying back into that first question of who your child is and whether or not this is going to fit their needs. And then finally, and this is a big question we get all the time, what kinds of opportunities does the school provide for social engagement? People often think that online school means your student is just sitting isolated in a room with no contact with anybody. Not true at all. But even if a school offers tons of opportunities, and Laurel Springs does, you and your students still have to lean into them. So what are the opportunities that school provides that would excite your student? What would they be interested in? Think like Francie. National Honor Society, it was something she really wanted. So that's something that they chose into. Is there something that school that you're looking at provides that your student could get excited about, that they could participate in, that they could meet friends, that they could engage with other peers? And then make sure that they're leaning into that one-to-one engagement with their teachers and counselors. The more that you encourage that and require that from home, the more students build those skills. And a lot of students don't like to do that right off the bat. They get nervous or shy. So it's up to us as the adults to help them guide into that space. And I can tell you 100%, one of the key levels of success or key indicators of success in college for college-bound students is whether or not they will ask for help, whether or not they will go see their professors, whether or not they will use office hours. The students who do that are far more likely to be successful than the students who don't. And there are all kinds of research and college professors that will tell you that. So being able to build those skills and those muscles when you are a younger student is absolutely beneficial. So I encourage that if you move into online learning. Now, the last couple of slides, I get a chance to share a little bit with you about Laurel Springs specifically. So fitting into all that information that we provided about online learning, Laurel Springs School is an asynchronous program. So of those three, we are the most flexible. We don't have any required live classes, although we do have a program called the Academy that has some optional live class options for students to choose into. But again, we're built around flexibility. So we want students and families to be able to choose what's going to work best for them. Students really can learn from anywhere at any time with Laurel Springs. Then we tie that with one-to-one support from expert teachers. There's an expert teacher assigned to each of our students' courses, and that student keeps that teacher throughout their course. And they also have counseling program support from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, including individually assigned counselors when they get into high school. So super great support that will help with college and career planning. All of the things you would expect from a private school, we can offer. And then that third component, the engage in virtual or in-person events. We have over 100 clubs and activities that are virtual for our students to participate in from all over the world. We also offer all kinds of amazing in-person field trips, travel learning, meetups, regional events, and that allows families to choose into what makes the most sense for them. And these are family opportunities as well. So families get a chance to meet each other, which is pretty cool. So that's the Laurel Springs model. Some of the stats that I've mentioned you want to look for. We are the oldest and first online school in the United States. We've been operating for 35 years. This is our 35th anniversary. We really focus, we are mission-based, and we focus on helping students balance between that self-paced learning and human connection. We really want students to be building those relationships with their teachers, their counselors, staff, each other, and outside of Laurel Springs itself. And we really focus on supporting students in their passions. So whatever their passion might be, whether it's academics or athletics or performing arts or entrepreneurialism, we try to help support them in those individual passions. We are fully accredited by Cognia and WASC. We are approved by the NCAA and the University of California system. And as you can see, we have tons of courses and opportunities for students to choose from. And one of the huge benefits, and I can speak to this as a prior vice principal in a brick and mortar school, your student doesn't have to wait for a seat to open for any of these spots. You don't have to worry that AP biology and AP chemistry are going to be offered in the same time frame in the bell schedule. Your student could take both if they wish to. So students really do have this opportunity to work with their counselors to design a schedule that's actually going to work best for them and also going to take them in the best possible direction for their college and career planning. I do want to put in a quick note that Laurel Springs also offers summer courses. So if you are thinking maybe online learning would work, but I'm not really sure, a summer course is a great way to dip your toe into the waters. So you can take one of our regular courses in a condensed format during the summer. We have start dates every Wednesday for the next couple of months. That will allow you to kind of test the waters. Is this something that works for me? I definitely recommend that if you're doing that during the summer, you either do something that will help you in the fall. So it could be taking a world language course that will get you a year ahead to start in the fall, taking a math course to accelerate, or taking something really interesting and exciting like an elective, something that's going to give you something fun to learn over the summer. And we do have some extra special offerings that we just do during the summer if you're interested. I highly recommend, by the way, the Crafting Your College Essay course for students who are interested in getting ahead on their college essays for the fall. These are operated by our counselors and our English teachers, and it's a great workshop. So with that, I think I've covered all of the information for the session. So Lydia, I think we're ready for questions.
Yes, I will take it away. So thank you so much, Alyssa, for that amazing presentation. Now we're going to transition into the live Q&A. So as I said in the chat, feel free to put any questions that you have in that Q&A tab, and I will be asking them for Alyssa to answer. So without further ado, I'll ask our first question, which is, how can flexible learning help students prepare for scholarships and college applications?
Excellent question. I love this. So there are a couple of different ways it can benefit. The first is that you might be able to take a lot more of the types of courses that you would want to be able to show to a college. So you may be able to lean into more of those honors and AP courses, build your transcripts, be able to speak to your academic levels of engagement. That can always be really beneficial in the college application process. But in addition, the fact that you are learning how to manage your time, how to manage your calendar, being able to speak to the relationships that you build with teachers, these are things that colleges absolutely love to see, right? Because what they are looking for primarily in the college application process is students who will be successful at their college. So that means they're looking not just for academics, they are also looking for skill sets. They're also looking for students who demonstrate grit and resilience, who demonstrate that they are capable of managing multiple things, especially the higher level colleges. So these are some areas where having an online program, if you can speak to that in your college applications or your essays, if you can speak to that through the recommendation letters that you have your teachers or counselors provide, this can be really beneficial to you in the application process.
Awesome. Another question that we have is, can students at your school take classes in the evening?
Absolutely. So they can actually take their coursework, if you will, at any time of the day. Because those courses are fully asynchronous, that means that they can do their work whenever they want to. And if you have a teenager and your teenager is anything like my teenager, they might want to do their work at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I don't recommend it. That's not something I would choose, but that seemed to be what worked best for her. And so having that opportunity as an online student to choose when you do your learning can really be beneficial. And as I shared before, for those students who are doing a lot of things during the day, like training or competitions or travel, or maybe doing extracurricular activities like community service, things that they might need to do during sort of the business day, this allows them to do their learning either in the middle of the day, the afternoons, the evenings, or even on the weekends. if they want to get ahead.
Another question that we have is, how does online school benefit athletes?
Great question. So athletes are about 40% of our student body at Laurel Springs. We serve roughly 3,200 students on a day-to-day basis. We're a rolling enrollment environment, which means students start all the time. So they can begin their academic year at any point in the year. But roughly 40% of our students are student athletes. And that's why, because those student athletes are usually spending anywhere from 3 to 6 hours a day in training, competition. And then when you are actually traveling outside of that, that's a lot of time commitment. So that's one of the huge benefits for our athletes is the ability to be flexible so they can actually do their training without missing school. The second benefit is that those athletes sometimes in a traditional environment miss out on some of those social activities and also on the higher level academic classes if they can't actually spend the time in class. So going to an asynchronous online program gives them the chance to lean into those academic and social opportunities that might be really hard to do in a traditional environment for somebody who's spending all that time during the day on their training.
Another question that we have is about cost. Are there any fees associated? Are there classes that can be taken for free?
Great question. So that depends on the online school that you're looking at. There are free online programs in some states. There are also charter online programs that would operate similar to a public school. Laurel Springs is a private school, so we are a tuition-based school if you're going full-time with us. We charge a per course price for students who are part-time with us. So if they're taking a summer course or 1 or 2 courses during the year to supplement, we have a per course charge. We don't have any free courses, but we definitely work with families to try to make sure that it's going to fit within their guidelines. And we do have a few discounts available to families such as active military and veterans.
Got it. So another question that we have is for students that are interested in having extracurriculars or creative classes like art, do you all have ways for students to pursue those things?
Absolutely. So in our curricular program, we have over 100 electives for our middle and high school students. And we have a bunch of electives for our K through 5 students as well. So this gives students the chance to do something more academic around their interests, everything from business classes to criminal justice to sociology. Like there are lots and lots of different electives our students can choose from and get credit for in the elective program. But we also have over 100 clubs and activities available to our 6th through 12th grade students and a bunch for K through 5. So that could look like National Honor Society, and we have 16 different honor societies. We've actually been really surprised. That seems to be one of the favorite opportunities for our students. We've had so many sign up for the various different honor societies, including our Physical Education Honor Society, and they seem to be finding their people there. And those are virtual, and those are completely free, and they're part of our program. We also have really cool in-person events that students can attend if they are available and willing to travel a little bit, including our year-end celebration that's actually taking place in 2 weeks. We have 4 days of celebration in person where we do an in-person graduation, in-person prom, in-person grad night, and senior recognition, like all the cool stuff. I like to tell families just because you're choosing into online doesn't mean you need to miss out on all of the cool stuff that you think of when it comes to high school, right? Be in the clubs, be in the activities, be able to engage in, the dance. Like this is all fun stuff that you should be able to do even as an online student. And I will say a lot of our students also do things outside of Laurel Springs. Community service, we have students who start businesses, we have students who do all kinds of really cool nonprofits work in their local areas. So students really do choose into both inside and outside anything that they're passionate about. And that's part of what makes this work.
That's great. I was just about to ask you about things like prom and graduation if that's in person.
Yes,
so
we
already
have it.
answered that question. Another question that we have is about students who are in special education or may have an IEP. Do you have support in place for students who may have learning differences?
Yes, we do. So as a private school, and this would be true for any other private online school as well, or private brick and mortar for that matter, we aren't required to follow IEPs and 504 plans the way that a public school is required to do that. That said, we take all of the documentation that our family comes into us with. We review all of that. We have a dedicated student support manager who's got a large background in special ed and learning support. She reviews all of documentation, works with the family to come up with an accommodation plan if necessary. And we have learning support specialists that will be able to work with our students as well. So we actually have quite a few students with things like ADHD or autism or dyslexia who will come to us. And what's interesting is that the types of accommodations you would normally have to ask a traditional school for, such as extra time on tests, or the ability to spend more time on an assignment, or quiet space to be able to work on something that's a high stakes, project. Our program already offers, like just the nature of our program. We don't have time tests. Students can do their work whenever and wherever is most comfortable for them. They can fit their learning, experience around what their needs are. And we have a lot of capability of helping to make things accessible. And that's just part of our program. So many of our students find a great deal of success with the added layer of support from our student support manager for those students who need it.
That's great. Another question that we have is, if my child stays in public school, can they take additional individual classes through your school, or is that not an option for a student that's full-time at a public institution?
Love this question. Love this question. They absolutely can take additional courses with us. So you can do one course, you could do a couple courses, you could do summer courses. The key thing I would tell you as a parent to do is make sure you check with your school that your student is currently in and make sure that they will take the credits from Laurel Springs. We will issue credits on a transcript for any courses that students take with us, and we're fully accredited. Many schools do take our credits and transfer them in, and it's not a problem. But we always tell students and families, you want to make sure you check that with your school before you sign up, because you don't want to get to the end of the course and find out that your school has some kind of rule that they won't take external credits, right? So definitely check with the school first, but absolutely it works out all the time for our students and families.
And the final question that I have for you is, what supports do you all have for standardized tests, whether it's a student that's preparing for a difficult AP exam like AP Calculus, or a student preparing for the PSATs or SATs? Is there any sort of test prep or test support?
You bet. So let me start with the PSAT, SAT type stuff. We offer classes that help students prepare for that. So they can sign up for like a semester of SAT prep or a semester of ACT prep. We have those courses. We also have a partnership with a program called tutor.com that is part of Princeton Review. And those live tutors are available 24/7, and they can help with that kind of test prep as well. That is available to all of our students, whether they're taking a part-time course or full tuition, full-time with us. So it comes with all of our courses. With regard to AP, our AP teachers provide test prep throughout the curriculum itself. So as students are going through the curriculum, they are preparing for the AP exam. All of our curriculum is designed around support for the AP exam. And then the teachers come alongside and help provide additional experiences as the students might need. We also offer AP mock exams during the spring for students who want to sign up for that. That gives them a chance to meet in person, via Zoom like this, with a teacher and a group of students who are all preparing for the same exam, and they'll go over exam questions. They'll do a little practice. They'll talk through how to answer questions. So it gives them that added layer of support.
Fantastic. So I think that is time for us, but thank you so much, Alyssa, for that fantastic presentation. You got me excited about sending my daughter to online school. So yeah, thank you. It was so informative. I know everyone who has been on this webinar tonight also learned a lot. And thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for being here. Here's my contact information if anybody wants to reach out to us. And we'd love to continue the conversation. Thank you for having us.
Okay. Thank you all. Bye.